Yeah. So I'll demonstrate this exercise project now, one page at a time, right? So let's start with index.html. So first I have to open my VS Code. So I open my VS Code. Now we need a folder for this, right? So what we can do is you can open your desktop or something, and in that you can create a folder. Yesterday I told that we have to have some folder called repos in which we put all our projects. So within that repos folder, it can be, this folder can be in your desktop. You can create a new folder inside that and name anything like my HTML exercise project or something. So I'm going to use the same folder which I used yesterday. Basically, there is nothing here. It's a blank folder. It's called class demo. So I have already created this folder. If you're working on a new project, let's say you are working on some desktop, if you want, like, you have to create a repos folder here in desktop, and within that you have to create a new folder called HTML project. Okay, so I'll demonstrate this now. So repos folder, inside that we have an HTML project. Now within that we will have all the HTML files. Okay, so this I've created. uh, then now I have opened my VS Code. Okay, so I have to click on file now. You have to click on open folder. So in my desktop, I have this repos folder. Inside that I have this HTML project. Okay, so I'll click on open. Okay, so I have opened my HTML project here. So this is the folder which I'm going to work on. So first and foremost, always you have to create a file called index.html. So this is a must. Always, any project, you should have a file called index.html. Okay, because anywhere you deploy, or any we'll be deploying our project, this project soon. So anywhere you deploy or anything you see, like, the first thing which by default the server opens is the index.html, or like even the browser opens is the index.html. Okay, so always you have to create an index.html. Now let's start creating the boilerplate. Okay, so HTML, inside that we should have head, then we have a body tag. So if you guys remember, these are the basic tags. Inside head we have something called as title. So this is the title for the tab. Okay, now yesterday we saw how to run this. So we have to right click here on this index.html file and click on open with live server. Okay, now this is running our index.html file. If you see, the title is given here. Okay, now I'll go to this thing, then I'll put some p tag. Okay, just to check whether it is working. Okay, so it is working now. Okay, so this is the index.html file of the project which we have to do. So we have a heading called student sign in. Okay, so let's create that. And before that, the title here is called student sign in, I think, the title. So we will put student sign in the title only, same as our project, student sign in. Now we have a heading called student sign in. Okay, so I'll put this in a h1 tag inside body. Okay, I should have this heading. This is the project, and this is whatever I am creating, right? I'm creating a, trying to replicate our exercise project. I have two input tag and a button. Okay, let me create two input tags and a button. So we saw it is input. Okay, this is text. And we saw there is a placeholder here. If I remove this John, there's a placeholder called username. Okay, so I'll create a placeholder property called username. Okay, now let me check the output. So I have an input with a placeholder called username. I can start typing on it. Okay, and the placeholder will vanish. But if I see, I I have a John name default here. So to give a default value here, we have to use the value property. I can give the value property as okay, plain. Okay, so now this input tag is done. The second is a password input tag. Okay, so we'll give an input. Okay, for this type should be password. So the difference is, if you see, like if you type it here, you will get only dot 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 dot. You don't get whatever. You don't get to see what we are typing. Okay. So here also we'll give a placeholder called password. So if you see, like we have a placeholder called password, and once we start typing, the placeholder will vanish, and we have to give some default value 123. I'm giving the default value as 123, but it won't be seen here. I'll get to see only 3 dots. Now these two input tags are done. Now I need a sign in button. So I'll create a button called sign in. Yeah. So this page is done. I have some heading and two input tags and a sign in button. Okay. Now what happens is, if I click on sign in, I'm loading courses.html. Okay. So yesterday we saw how to do this. Okay. We saw how to do this. Like we have this a slide, right? This slide is 12th slide. So we have this thing called home button. It is wrapped inside an anchor tag. That anchor tag is pointing to index.html. If you can see properly, there is an anchor tag which points to index.html. Inside that, we have a button called home. If I click on this home, it will take me to index.html. So same thing we will be doing here. What should happen is, if I click on the sign in button, I'm being taken to courses.html. Okay, so let's first create a new file called courses.html. Okay, so for now, I'll just put some HTML, head, title as courses, and some body tag. I'll give some heading as some welcome. Okay, some h1 as welcome. Okay, so this is my index.html file. This is my courses.html. Now, when I click on this button called sign in, I should go to courses.html. So for that, what we did yesterday is we created an anchor tag. Okay, href tag, and this href property should point to courses.html, our new HTML page. Okay, now inside this anchor, we will put this button. Okay, now it should work as expected. This is our project. Okay, now if I click on the sign in, I should be taken to, if you see here, I should be taken to courses.html. Okay, so I've been taken to courses.html. Inside that, I have a heading called welcome. Okay, so this is how we have to link a button to another page. Now below that, we have something called as logout. Now, if I click on logout, I'm taken again back to index.html. Okay, so let's try to implement it here. So this is my courses.html. Okay, so I have a tag. This should point to index.html, and my text should be logout. I think so far good. Let's test it out. So I'm in courses.html. If I click on logout, I'm coming back to index.html. Okay. Now what are the things we have? Here we have some p tag called your burst courses. So I'll also give a p tag called your burst courses. After that, I have a list, unordered list. We saw how to do unordered list. Okay, but here uh, the different thing is here, like if I click on JavaScript, I'm being taken to another page. First, let's create the list and we will see how to link it to another page. Okay, now I'm just creating this unordered list. Okay, so for unordered list, the main tag is UL, unordered list. And within that, I have to give each list item as LI. Okay, so in the first one, I'll just give JavaScript. For simplicity, instead of creating all the pages, I'll just create 2 pages. Okay, JavaScript, and I'll put Mern. Mern stack is MongoDB, Express, React, and Node. So I'm only having 2 list items here instead of 4, just to keep it simple. Okay, so I have these 2, but my list is not yet clickable. Now, how to make this clickable? Can anyone answer it? If you know, like we have a list tag, how to make this clickable? Same as this logout thing. If I'm clicking, I am taken to index.html. Similarly, if I this should be clickable, and if I click on this, I should be taken to a new page. So how to implement it here? Anyone? Yeah, yeah. So that's right. Ahref we have to use. Okay. So what I have to do here now is I'll put a href tag. Okay. And I have to wrap my JavaScript, that list, into the ahref. Let me format it. So if you guys want to format a document, right, what you can do is you can right click and click on format document. So this will automatically align everything so that it looks cleaner to read. Okay. So if you can see, this is my A tag and this is my list item called JavaScript. Now I have to be taken to a JavaScript page. So for that, let's create a file called js.html. JS is JavaScript. Okay. So within that, I'll just again give HTML head title. I'll give as Java JS, and within that I have body. I'll give a h1 tag called JavaScript. Okay, so I have created the basic this thing. I'll also format this document. Okay, this is done. Now I'll go to courses.html. Now this is the list item. This li is there. Okay, but I'm yet to give the href. Nothing will happen if I click. It just shows a link. Nothing will happen. I have to add the href property here. So I'm linking this to js.html, this file. Okay. Now, if I click on JavaScript, I'll be taken to js.html. Inside js.html, we only have a heading called JavaScript. Okay. Now let's see what exactly is here. So we have a heading called JavaScript and we have an image. So what I'll do is I'll just copy paste this image here. I'll just copy the image address. Okay. We need an image down here. Now for image, we'll need an image tag. Okay. So after the heading tag, I am giving a image tag. So inside the source, I had already copied the image address. So I had already copied the image address. Okay. Now within the source property, I'll paste the link. Now if you see our project, this is our project. I have the heading and the image. Okay. Now I have some text here. Okay. So I'll just put a p tag. I won't copy the entire text. I'll just copy this text and I'll put it in a p tag. So below the image, I'm creating a p tag and I'm pasting the text. Okay. After that, there is a back to all courses button. So if I click on this, what is happening is I'm again taken back to the courses.html page. Okay, so same thing which we implemented here. We have a button, and the button should be wrapped in a anchor tag. Okay, so same thing I'll do. First, I'll create a button. The button should be back to all courses. I'll just give back. Okay, now this button has to be wrapped inside a tag. So I'm giving the closing tag after the button. Okay, let me format my code. Okay, this is formatted. Now, when I click on the back button, I should be taken to courses.html. So I'll put inside the href property, I'll put courses.html. Okay, now this is done. So let me test. So this is our thing, JavaScript, some image, some p tag, and when I click on back, I'm taken to courses.html. Okay, now same thing we have to do with mon. So in courses.html, this mon is there. Okay, now we have to create an anchor tag and put the li inside. So I'll create an anchor tag, and I'm giving this a tag inside. I'll format the document. Okay, inside this href, we have to give another HTML file. We have not yet created that. So let me create it. I'll name it as mon.html. Okay, so I'll just give the boilerplate head title as mon, then body, I'll give a h1 called mon. Okay, now this is there, courses.html is there. Now this href should point to mon.html. Okay, let's test it out. So I have this courses page. JavaScript will point to javascript.html. If I click on back, I'll come to courses.html. If I click on mon stack, I'm being taken to this mon.html page. Now I need a image for this. Okay, so I'll put an image tag. So we need a mon image. So I'll just search for a mon stack image. So I'll take this image. I'll copy image address. I'll put it in the source. Hopefully the image is not too big. Yeah, it's good. So we will see how to resize images in CSS, but for now you can just use his plain image tag. Whatever the size, the default size is, that is what will appear. Okay. Now we will give some description for the course inside a p tag. So what is mon? Mon is MongoDB Express, React, and Node.js. Okay, so why this is called mon and why this is popular is, so basically before JavaScript had introduced something called Node.js, JavaScript can be only used in the front end, right? JavaScript cannot be used in the back end, so JavaScript will be only used in the browser. And in the backend, we had languages like Java. Java is different from JavaScript. We had Java, Python, like C#. These languages we had in the backend. Okay, so what happened is something called Node.js was developed. So from that, what happened is we could run JavaScript in the backend also on any computer. So not just the browsers understand JavaScript. Post Node.js, even the computers or the servers could understand JavaScript. Now, after this, there was an explosion in JavaScript. Why? Because just with single language, you can develop the entire stack, right? So everything, even MongoDB is based on some JavaScript, kind of like a JSON format. Okay, Express is a framework in the backend using again JavaScript, right? So Express runs on Node.js. Okay, and React.js is a front-end framework. So basically, just with one language, we were able to create full stack applications, and lot of startups and even enterprise companies started adopting JavaScript, primarily because of the reason that just with a single language you are able to develop entire full stack applications. So that is the special thing about Monstack. Okay, so now we have given, coming back to the P tag, we have given what is the description of Mon. Okay, now we need again a button. So here the same thing we have to do. So what I'll do is I'll just copy paste. There is no change here. So there is a button called back. When I click on the back, I should be taken to courses.html. Let's just check it. So we have this Mon page. Okay, this description, when I click on back, I'm taken back to course.html. So yeah, pretty much our project is done now. So these are the basic concepts which you need to know in like HTML, and these tags are like the most important tags which you will be using like most of the times, right? So if you are able to understand these tags, then you are like an 80% expert in HTML. Okay. So once our project is done, so this is done, like our project is done now. Now we'll see how to deploy it. Okay. So this is the third slide. So we completed introduction to web development. Then we completed HTML now. Now we are going to go into GitHub and Vercel. So some of you might have already have a GitHub, probably a GitHub account, but we will show you how to create a GitHub account now. Okay. So before we create a GitHub account, we will see what is GitHub. Okay. So again, like everything in our course is being explained using an analogy, right? So you guys know what is Microsoft Word, and you guys know what is Google Docs. Okay. So you can compare VS Code to Microsoft Word and GitHub to Google Docs. Okay. So basically we write code in our local using VS Code. Right, VS Code, we write all the HTML files in fact, like our entire development happens in VS Code. Even if we get into React or Express, we can do everything in VS Code. So VS Code is something like a local environment, same as like Microsoft Word, where you can type and like you can put on your document and your code. So VS Code is similar to Microsoft Word, which you use in local. Then GitHub is similar to Google Docs. So Google Docs is completely online. You cannot, you can also use it offline, but most of the times it's used online, right? So you have to open this Google Docs in a browser, and Google Docs in a browser, and you can type on it, right? You can type your text on Google Docs. What other features in Google Docs are there? Which you generally use is, once you create a document, right, you can share the document with others, so others can also collaborate. So if you have any Google Doc, if you create a Google Doc, you can go to Chrome and put docs.new. If you give docs.new, you are creating a Google Doc. So the main thing is like it is online, right? And when you click on share, you can share the document with someone else. Okay, so this is the thing, and the other one can also collaborate. So once you type something and like share, the other person can come and edit the whatever is being typed. Right, it's a very easy tool to collaborate, and it's online. Right, similar to that, you can compare GitHub as Google Docs. So once you write your code in local, you need to store the code somewhere online so that like you can collaborate with others. So what happens is you can store your code in local to GitHub, and in GitHub you can give access to your code base to other developers. Right, when you're working on a project, no single person work on a project, right? In a project, if you take, there'll be a lot of developers working. So you need to share the code to them. Okay, so you develop in local and you upload it to GitHub, where you can share your code base to other developers and they can collaborate with you on the code base. similar to what happens in Google Docs. Okay, so I hope this analogy is clear. Now, let's create a GitHub account. Okay, so and we will upload whatever we have done, whatever project we have done into GitHub. Okay, so for those of you guys who don't have a GitHub account, now Sudeep will demonstrate how to create a GitHub account.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, Sudeep. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so what you can do is go to this github.com, and you will see this page. So there is a button called sign up and sign in. If you are new to github.com, you can just click on sign up. You can put your email. Okay. So I will put email. Okay. So and then you have to create a password. Then you have to choose a username. So I am just so you can choose anything. Okay, if it is available, then it will show that burst practice that is at available, and then I'll just go for continue, and you can uh, put email preferences. Then so in your email you will see a um, code. So will check for the code. Then you can just choose some options. You can choose the free options. Okay. So this is your account is created, uh, and you can create this repository. I think Sayana will show how to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Sudeep. So for those of you who doesn't have a GitHub account, you don't have to create it now. Okay. So this call is being recorded, and you saw Sudeep walking through how he created uh, the GitHub account. Okay. So post the class, the recording will be shared. So you can see the recording if you have any doubt. It's a straightforward process to create a GitHub account. So you have to create a GitHub account so that like we can store our code online. Okay. Now once the account is created, what you have to do is we have to create a repo. Repo means as a repository or a project in GitHub without a README file. Okay, and use the same name as your project in the local. Okay, then we have to upload the files to GitHub. Now I'll demonstrate these two steps now. Okay, so I'll open my GitHub. Okay, so here if you go to your home, so this will be like your home. Okay, kind of like a similar interface will be there. Now what you have to do is you have to create a repository. Okay, so there is a new button here, so you have to click on new. Okay, so this is the project name, the repository name you have to give. Now in your local, right, so whatever name you have given, you try to maintain the same name here, because whatever the list of projects you have in the local, you will almost have the same projects in your GitHub. Okay, so you try to keep the naming consistent. Okay, it's useful in the long run. So here in my repos folder, in my desktop, I have a repos folder, and I have this as HTML project. Okay, so I'll name the repository, my GitHub repository, also as HTML project. Okay, so it will show whether you have that available inside your repository. So you cannot rename this, you cannot have same names in your own project, in your own GitHub account. So I already have something called HTML project, so I don't have it, so this name is available. Now you can keep the repository public, and I'm not adding a README file. Okay, now I am clicking on this create repository. So once the repository is created, we have to upload our files from the local to GitHub. So there are multiple ways to do this. The most simpler way is, here you have something called uploading an existing file. Okay, so you can click on uploading an existing file. Okay, here I have to upload. So I am clicking on choose your files. Okay, I have the project in my desktop inside repos, inside HTML. So I am putting all these files. I'm selecting all these files and I'm clicking on open. So it's uploading all the 4 files. Okay, now all the 4 files are uploaded. You have to give some message. Okay, we will see what are these commit messages in future, but you have to give some message. So I'll just put add files. Okay, now after this, I'll click on commit changes. Okay, so yeah, we have successfully uploaded our local files to GitHub. Now this project is uploaded in your GitHub account. Okay, so yeah, this is the way. So post the class, like after the class, you can also try this. Okay, if there is any doubt, you can reach out to us. Now we have uploaded our files to GitHub. Okay, now that is done, we have to deploy our site. Okay, so for deploying, we'll use something called Vercel. Okay, so we'll see what is deployment and what is Vercel. First of all, deployment. Why we need something like deployment? So we saw in our first previous lecture that if you are visiting some website in Google Chrome, okay, so what happens is it sends a request to the server of that site. Okay, when you're searching for a site, we are sending a request to the server. Now server gets the request, it responds. Okay, it responds with a set of files, HTML, CSS, JavaScript files, and these files are being loaded in Google Chrome. Okay, you are able to see the site. Now what is deployment is, this server needs to know, when I search for this site, I have to send these files. Now these files you have already created. Like we have created HTML file. So these files have to be on the server. It has to be uploaded to the server, so that whenever like someone requests for those files, the server will send those files to the client, the browser. So deployment, you can think of it as a process. As so now we have built our HTML project. What deployment means is, we are storing these files somewhere in some computer on the internet. Okay, so if we are able to store these files in the internet, like on some computer, and someone wants to see our site, they will give a request to the server. Okay, and the server will send these files which you had uploaded to this computer to the browser, and the browser will load. So basically deployment is Just whenever you have created a project, you are uploading it to some computer which is always on, which is 24/7 on. Okay. And when someone else on the internet wants to see your site, and they send the request to the server and they get back the files which you have uploaded here. Okay. So this is basically what is deployment. And what is Vercel is, Vercel basically gives us these servers. Okay, so they have a free version which we'll be using it to like deploy our projects. So basically, they give us servers where we can upload our files. Okay, and then like whenever someone requests our site, you can send the link. Whenever someone searches for that link, they will get the project which you have done. Okay, so pretty much that is what deployment and Vercel means. Okay, I hope I am clear in whatever I try to explain. Okay, so the same thing we have to do. Now we need to create a Vercel account and connect your GitHub to Vercel and allow access to all the GitHub repos and deploy your GitHub repo to Vercel. Okay, so now Sudeep again, like he will demonstrate how to create a Vercel account.
Yeah. So to come to Vercel.com, you can here also you will see the sign up button. If you go to sign up, you will see there's a plan type. You can go for a hobby plan. And you will have a option for connect continue with GitHub. Okay, so you can just continue with GitHub and authorize Vercel. You can put your phone number. You can go to this start deploying. Yeah, from here I think Sayano can take.
Sudeep, can you install the GitHub
GitHub.
to? Yeah.
Yeah, so you can do this install version. This. It will just install Vercel into GitHub, your GitHub account.
So what essentially? Yeah. Thanks, Sudeep. So what we have done is we have created the Vercel account. Okay. If you saw what Sudeep did, like we have created the Vercel account, and then like we have connected our Vercel to GitHub. Okay. So basically, your code is uploaded to GitHub, and your Vercel account which you had created is automatically connected to GitHub now. So whenever like any project you upload to GitHub, it can you can directly connect it to Vercel and you can deploy it. Okay, the deployment process has been made like extremely simple. Okay, so we'll see how to deploy to Vercel now. Okay, so this will be your home page. Okay, this will be your home page. It will be have https:/your username or something. Okay, after you have created and linked your GitHub. Okay, then post that you have to click on add new here and click on project. Okay, so now since your Vercel and GitHub is already connected, you will see or you will be able to see your projects here. If you're not able to see your projects here, you can to adjust permissions. Okay, so you can click on all repositories here and click on save. Okay, now all your repositories of your GitHub will be having access to Vercel will have access to your all your GitHub projects. Okay, now if you remember, my GitHub project was HTML project. This is what is there in GitHub. So this is my HTML project which we uploaded right now. Now this is there in this is showing here. Now I can click on import. Okay, so this is there. Nothing you have to do. So it's as simple as clicking a button. Now, if I click deploy, my project will start deploying. It will take some time. Okay. So it's building and it's deployed. And yeah, so it's a celebration, like just with one click, you're able to deploy. So if you see, this is my local project. Okay. This is my local project which is running. Okay. This is my index.html file. When I click on sign in, I'm getting two courses.html. This is running in my local 127.0.0.1. Now, if you see, this is some other website name. Okay, HTML project dash lake 8 Vercel app. So uh, this is something that Vercel has given me. Okay, so this is the HTML page actually. If you click on sign in and log out, I'll get this HTML page. Okay, this is my HTML page. If I click on sign in, I'm going to courses.html. Okay, within that, I can go again back to index.html and I can go to Java js.html and again mon.html. So yeah, so we have deployed our site to some server now. So if you guys can want to like play around, like I'll also share this in the chat. So this is basically something online we had developed in local, and we have uh, given this project. We have put this project online. Okay, so yeah, so we have deployed our code to GitHub. Just to give a recap, we have deployed our code to GitHub, and we have created our we have uploaded our code to GitHub, and we had created a Vercel account and linked our Vercel and GitHub. So directly, all the projects from GitHub are coming to Vercel. Okay, and with one click, we can like deploy our project to Vercel, and anyone else, like you can just send off this link to anyone as I sent. So anyone on the internet can access your project. Yeah. So yeah. So this is about like deploying. What I'll do is I'll just start off little bit with HTML. Okay, I won't go deep. I mean, like, I won't cover the entire stuff which we can. This entire content we can cover tomorrow. So I'll just give a basic introduction, and then like we can wrap up the class, and we will continue from tomorrow. Okay. So coming to CSS. So CSS, as we saw, like it's a way to style our projects. So we had, this is my folder. We have a index.html file, and this is a CSS file where we write all our styles. Okay, and we are going to now create a style.css file, and we are going to link our style.css file to index.html. So whatever styles we do in style.css will be applied to the elements of index.html. Okay. So yeah, I'll just demonstrate it. So this project is done. So what I'll do is I'll close my VS Code. I'll open my new project. Okay. So I'll create a new project called some sample CSS. Okay. So I've created the folder. Now I'll open the folder here in VS Code. Okay. First, I'll create index.html file. So within that, I'll give the basic boilerplate HTML head, title, I'll give a CSS, and body. Okay, I'll give a p tag called index file. Okay. Now how to create and link a CSS file. Okay, so you have to create another file called style.css. So this is where we put all our styles which gets applied to index.html file. Now we have to link this CSS file to the HTML file. Okay, so to link it, I have to give link and CSS. Okay, so every time you go over something, right, you will know what exactly is going to happen when you select that particular option. So link CSS means link relative style sheet, and href is style.css. So here I have the link tag, and it is pointing that style sheet is pointing to style.css. You can change this. You can have anything like not just style. I can also have this as instead of style, I can put styles.css. If I just rename it here also I should rename styles.css. So the naming should be consistent. Okay. So this is how we have to create a styles.css file and link it to our index.html. Okay. So once this is done, what we can do is we can just go over ID and classes and some basic styling, and then like before CSS grid we will start tomorrow. Okay, so we'll just see what is ID and class. Okay, so there is something called as CSS selectors. Now, as the name denotes, these select elements, HTML elements in style.css. Okay, so here we have a h1 tag called heading. Now, let's say we want to style this heading. Okay, how we do is we use something called as ID. So we give a property for h1 called ID, and we give it heading. Okay, we name it as heading, and we select this ID here in style.css file. Okay, using this hash. So hash, this ID name we have to give here. Okay, and this is how the syntax is. We have to give some curly braces, and this color is a property. So if you give color as blue, this heading will become blue color. So this is the browser output. So if you see heading, initially it will be in black color. Okay, so you are giving an ID called heading, and you're selecting that ID in style.css using this hash in the heading thing, and giving a curly braces. Within that you have to give color blue. Okay, now there are two p tags here. Now I am styling these two p tags. Okay, so what I'm doing is instead of ID I'm giving class. Okay, so I'm giving class as text for this hello. So this text I'm selecting it in my style.css using a dot. Okay, so this is the convention which we follow. If we have to select ID, we have to give hash. If we have to select class, we have to give dot. So dot text, again this curly braces same. If you give color as red, this hello will turn red. Initially it will be black, now it is red. I'll demonstrate this in a while. Okay, now again the same class name you are giving it to this welcome text. So class text dot text. Okay, and giving it welcome. So what is the difference between ID and class? Now ID can only be given to a single HTML tag. So I have a h1 here, and I have a ID called heading. Now I cannot give ID heading here in p tag because I can only use ID once. So here I've given the ID for h1 and I've styled using that ID. Okay, if I want to style multiple elements with same kind of styling, so what I can use, I can use something called as class. So class is like basically what is a class? Like in a class, like you have multiple elements grouped together. That is a class. Okay, that's what we call it as a class. So if you want to style multiple elements and all the elements should be of similar style. So we give something called as class to all the elements which we want the same style as, and then like we select that particular class only once and we style it. So this is the difference between ID and class. I'll just repeat it. So these are called CSS selectors because this is how we select the HTML elements in the CSS file. Okay. Once we select, we are using for IDs, we are using hash and the ID name. For classes, we are using dot and the class name. And within that curly braces, you have to give the coloring. ID is unique to a single element. You can use only once. But if you want multiple elements to have the same styles, you can use class. Okay. I'll demonstrate now this in my VS Code. Okay. So I have a head one, sorry, H1 called heading. So this will be styled using ID. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just open this in live server so that it is running. Okay. So this is the heading. This will be styled using ID. I'll have two P tags. Okay. So P tag styled using class. I just repeat it here. So I'll just put here first P tag style using class, second P tag style using class. Okay. Now I have to give a property called ID in H1. So I'll give ID and I can name it anything. In the slide, it was given heading. I can just name it head. Okay. So in class, I'll just give a class called red text. Okay, anything I can name the class or the ID. So I need the same class here for the P tag. So I'll again give class as red text. Now I have given IDs and classes to the elements. Now I have to select these elements in styles.css. Okay, so I'll go to style.css. Okay, now for this head, it's a ID. So for ID, we have to use hash. So hash is on top of 3. Then you have to give a curly braces. Okay. Now I want to give a color. Here color is COLOR. This is the property, inbuilt property. Okay. So I can give it blue. So if you see, my heading is styled using ID and it's in blue color. Okay. Now for selecting the class, I need this text, red text. Okay. So to style the class, I have to give dot that particular text, red text. Okay. I'll give a color red. Now my both paragraph tags are in red color. So this is about like basic styling. So you can use IDs and class and select them in style.css and you can style them. Okay. So so we will stop till here, right? So there is a task like you can, this is the same task, create a index.html, add boilerplate to index.html, create a h1 and two p tags, make the h1 tag blue color and p tags in red color. This is what we did. Okay. So you can also try this task. Okay. CSS grid, we will start from tomorrow. Okay. So we'll wrap up till now. If there is any questions, you guys can ask in the Q&A. Any questions till now? Okay, so I think there are no questions. So what all things we covered today is we completed the exercise project for HTML. You can also, if you have not done, you can give it a try. Since the recording will also be shared in like another 1-2 hours, like you can see that, and you can try to complete the HTML project. Okay. Then after that, we created a GitHub account and we uploaded the HTML project to GitHub. Okay. Then after that, we created a Vercel account and connected that Vercel account to the GitHub account. Okay. So then we deployed the our project using Vercel. Okay. So now anyone can see our project. Okay. Why Vercel is used? I have a question called why Vercel is used. Okay, so I just explained it again. Mm, So VS Code is a thing which we use in local, right? So this is where we wrote the code. Okay, so we wrote our code. If you see, this is VS Code. This is where we write code in our local and we test it in the local. Okay, once this is done, we upload the code to GitHub. Okay, so anyone can open this HTML project and they can see like what code we have written. This is my index.html file. This is my courses.html file. So anyone can see what code I have written. Okay, since this is the public repository. Then once this is done, what we have to do is we have to deploy our files somewhere online. Okay, so that like anyone can see. Now this is all in my local. Okay, if I want to deploy, I mean like someone else, if someone else wants to see this project, we have to deploy it in some other computer. So Vercel gives us that computer which can be used to deploy our files, right? So this is the site, I mean like which was deployed. Okay, so if you can share this link to anyone, and anyone searching this link will get your can be able to see your project, because these files in the GitHub are deployed in Vercel. Okay, so Vercel gives us some computers which are always on, where we can upload our files there. Okay, and whenever someone requests our site, that server will send those files to our browser and we can see the project which we have done. Okay, so it will be useful for when you are like finding jobs and all, right? Right now the use case is that once you finish the project, you can upload it to GitHub. So your potential recruiter whom you are interviewing for, they'll see your GitHub account and they can see the code here. And also what you can do is, since our GitHub and Vercel is connected, so whatever link we have to share, it's already linked here. Okay, so I didn't do this. It was automatically done from Vercel side. So anyone can click on this and they can see how this project works. So it's a good showcase of your projects, both GitHub and Vercel. Okay, so they can see the code and also they can see how your project works. Okay, so basically Vercel is a company actually. Okay, so they give servers for free, like for hobby projects. Since we are trying to learn, they give it to free, like for hobby use cases. So we can upload our files, as in like we can deploy our files to Vercel, and anyone, like you can share the link and anyone can access that. Okay, so Hrithik, did that answer your question? So what are the other things are included in front-end development other than HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that we can learn? Right, front-end development. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript are the basics. Right, you have to know to do front-end development. Okay, so with respect to web development, in front-end you can learn a framework called React. So React is based on JavaScript. Okay, so to learn React, you need to know JavaScript properly, right? So using React, you can develop web applications, the front end of web applications, React makes a lot of things easier to do the front end development. Okay, so if you want to do front end other than HTML, CSS, JavaScript, you have to learn something called React. Okay, and CSS also, there are like few frameworks. In our course, we will be covering something called Balma. So so if you see our slides, after CSS, we have a framework called Balma. So a lot of companies use different frameworks for CSS. Sometimes they use Tailwind, or they use Bootstrap. Okay, so we cover Balma, but once you learn a single framework, any other framework will be of similar concepts. You can learn them. Once you know Balma, you can learn Bootstrap. You can also learn Tailwind. Tailwind is a little bit different, but once you learn Balma, you can learn Bootstrap, and the concepts are almost similar. So you need to learn a CSS framework. CSS framework is pretty easy to learn, and React. So React is a bit difficult. So you have to learn JavaScript properly, and then like you have to learn React. React has some very few hard concepts to grasp, but React makes our life easier in the web applications. Lot of complexities are removed when you are using React. Any other questions? Okay. So are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, we can wrap up the session. Okay, so we'll be sharing the recording in a while. Okay, so yesterday's recording is also being shared. Today is also shared. Today also will be shared, right? And also we will give access to the slides. Okay, so you can go through the recording, and you can try to complete the sample projects and the exercise projects. If you have doubts, you can use the Google form. So I explained this yesterday also. I'll just tell it one more time. So if you go to the HTML thing, you can go to the third slide. Okay, so you can click on this link. If you are having any doubts, you can click on this link. This link will open a Google form. So in that you can give your name and your question, wherever you are stuck, and you can give what you tried to solve this question or solve this problem which you are given. So did you Google the problem, and like what kind of things which did you try to solve the bug or solve the problem? After that, if you have any screenshot of error messages, you can upload it here and click on submit the form. So once you do this, we will get to know what kind of things you are stuck at. We will reach out to you to solve this bug within like sometime, right? Within 24 hours, we will be solving your doubt. So obviously this is an important thing, like multiple times, right? Initially, when you're trying to learn, you will get stuck a lot. So this kind of like support will be really helpful for you. So that like you don't get stuck and like get demotivated. Okay. So yeah. So pretty much that is it. So we will share the recording and the other resources. I'll see you guys tomorrow. So tomorrow we will continue with CSS Grid. That's a very interesting topic. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for joining.